Either way you talk.
Yeah.
Okay, Mary.
Okay. Welcome to What's New. We have a house full tonight.
Thank God.
Yeah,
We've been winging it for the last 2 programs and didn't have the last one because we didn't have guests.
Yeah.
So we're really happy to have all you guys here. Really, really
Well,
happy.
good.
So we've got the Rural Heritage Days, we've got Spirit Reunion, and we've got Domestic Violence. So
Okay.
we're going to turn over the program to ours, and she's going to start by asking which one wants to go first.
Okay, and I think Chelsea, who is Rural Heritage Days and also Spirit Reunion,
Yeah.
she's going to start off with what's going on for Heritage Days, since it's not like it was a couple years ago. There's a lot of different things, and so we're very happy to have you as our guest. So,
Thank you. My name is Chelsea Montgomery, and I'm an interpreter at the Felix Valley House State Historic Site. And this year, you're absolutely right. Everything's kind of different.
and it's even in a different place, right? You moved it up
Yeah.
further?
Yeah, it actually incorporates more of downtown this year, but there are still things going on down at the Beauvais Amaro House as well.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So National Park Service down at the Beauvais Amaro House, they're going to offer some free children's games. I know they're going to have the house open as well. Some of the games that I believe that they're going to do are sack races and then graces. I think they're also,
That's fun. Yeah.
yeah, and then they're going to do some apple pressing down there as well.
Oh, that's neat.
Oh, yes. And then as we kind of move up St. Mary's Road at Sassafras Creek, there are going to be several demonstrators in the yard there. I know they're going to be making apple butter. There's going to be, I think, powder horn demonstrations. They're going to offer some food down there. And, it's candy. Who knows what she's going to come up with.
Yeah. It'll be good.
Yeah. Yeah, the library is going to be setting up down at the Green Tree Tavern.
Oh, how wonderful.
Yeah, they should be there, I believe, 10 to 4. They're going to offer some story time. There might be some activities there as well. I think so much is still in the works. We're excited about that. We're adding new things every day.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when we first heard it, it was canceled. And then we were like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
what are they going to do this year? They have to do something. And then somebody said, well, there's a lot of stuff going on in town.
Yeah. And
So I tried to track everybody down, and finally tonight I got you.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, with fear of it being canceled, everybody kind of stepped up and decided to take a part in it. So we're all involved. There's going to be demonstrations at our Welcome Center. Our Felix Valley House, we're going to be open the downstairs for some free costume tour interpretation. We have all kinds of demonstrators set up in our backyard. We're gonna
That's great.
Oh yeah. We have a scarecrow program that's going to go on several times throughout the day. It's completely free. People can come and actually build scarecrows.
Oh, how cool.
We'll
Yeah.
have Dennis Stromat set up from, I believe he's 1 to 3.
That's what I think. Yeah.
Good. He's a good one.
Oh, yes. The German band is going to be playing, I believe, 11 to 1, if I remember correctly. I think they are going to be set up right across from Autobahns. And
Oh, in that
pavilion.
little,
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah, that's where they usually set it.
Yeah.
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 Is that what it is?
The pergola. Pergola. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I always say that word. I say a lot of words wrong.
That's why I didn't even attempt it. I called it a pavilion.
Yeah.
But yeah, up at the keyboard. Oh, that's going to be really interesting. Mickey, you want to talk?
I'm gonna be doing some tatting on the front porch.
Oh, are you really? Good.
And then Mary Elise is gonna come up and demonstrate, but she hasn't told me yet what she's gonna do.
She's
So-
doing caning,
Caning, that's right. She's
chairs.
caning
Yes.
chairs.
Oh, caning chairs. Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, last time I had talked to her, she was still thinking about it. So she's gonna be caning chairs. And then at 4 o'clock, we're gonna have a parade of spirits. So that will be fun.
That'll
to
be
do.
heading up to the cemetery then?
Heading up to the cemetery. yeah.
Okay, and I see a couple other things. Spinning?
Spinning will probably be
Spinning's going to
Probably
be in the
Debbie.
courtyard at the Shaw House, Deb
Right.
Yeah.
Cameron.
Deb Cameron.
And also it says 18th century doctor.
We're hoping to have him.
Okay, and colonial food.
Yeah,
Uh,
Susan Corbett, she'll be there for
Yeah.
that.
Leatherworks,
Yes,
and Civil
Bob
War
and Liz?
Group,
yes.
and I think you covered everything.
Well, you also have the Bolduc and the Lumiere House.
Right,
Yes,
they're
we're
gonna
not
have
that
things-
far yet.
Yeah,
Yeah, they have quite a, well,
She's
you're
still got
coming
a,
up,
she's still
coming
got a
up the
ways to go
street.
on her little
Yeah.
program.
Yes,
Yeah,
coming up Main
Okay.
Street, yeah,
Yeah.
they have quite a few
is
activities
going on.
Yeah.
going on in their backyard. and
They're
then-
gonna be open for tours. I think they're gonna have some demonstrators, in their former museum building. Oh, I'm at a loss for words.
Yeah.
But yeah, they.
Yes, that's wonderful that they've got so much stuff. It's such a good variety for everyone, yeah.
Yeah.
So we
And
need
we're gonna
to
be
really
open
get
for
the word
tours.
out for people to Facebook it and Facebook it
Yeah.
and Facebook it so
Yeah.
everybody shows up.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then also, there's gonna be a beer garden and German on the north end of town, which of course is the German end of town.
Yeah.
Most of your historic buildings were built by Germans from
Right.
Audubon's, up to the Main Street Inn
Yeah.
in that area, and they're gonna have more of a German influence,
Well, that's
where
good.
most of the other venues spoken of are gonna be more French.
French.
So,
So we'll cover all the bases there,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's great.
So what you got to say, Ellie?
I'm letting them do the Heritage Days, and I'm waiting for Spirit Reunion.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So, yeah, I guess, the tractors.
The museum is gonna have the tractors, or some of the tractors set up there. We're not gonna actually have a parade this year.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully next year.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
It's kind of a rebuilding year.
right.
Yeah.
But you guys did a great job, whoever got all these people. Or did people just start volunteering?
It's a little bit of a mixture. So
Well,
we
that's
do have
great.
information from Lions Club and Jack Donzie from years past. He did give us a list. We've tried to contact some of the demonstrators and vendors from there. And as the word gets out more, people they contact us, and we're so happy to continue to add vendors. I'm contacted daily about this.
That's good. Okay, I
Wow.
see a couple more things. The Welcome Center, Bob and Lace. Who's doing that? You?
No, I'm not doing it, but I wish I wasn't chatting, because I like to go sit there at her elbow, and she and I have talked about it. One of these days, we're gonna get together and not be doing two things opposite one another. Bob and Lace is my next thing to learn.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I've watched her and I've bought a practice set, so,
It's Diane Warfield.
Diane
I bet that's
Warfield, yeah.
beautiful too. Who is it?
Diane Warfield.
I don't know.
Warfield,
She's from Perry County.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. And,
And then Brick's Winery.
Yeah, they're actually celebrating their 1-year anniversary. And they were still kind of growing everything that they were going to do, but I know they were going to have prizes and giveaways. I think mead, tasting. They're going to have live music too. They were still securing what band, so I need to touch base with them.
And that'll be in their
Yeah.
backyard probably. It's really nice back there with their
Yes, yeah.
tables and
Mhm.
they serve you. It's really nice back there. And the church,
The church,
Presbyterian
yes.
church.
I don't remember what we have offhand. I think they're doing their bake sale.
and their book sale.
And the book sale, yes.
And Pat's.
And Pat's. of
And I think
course.
that's about the end of.
For today.
Yeah,
Well,
and
you
it's
have,
so
Pat's
wonderful. What a great
Pastries, I believe,
lineup.
is doing a
Yes.
quilting demonstration,
Mhm.
and
Oh,
also,
at the Presbyterian church they're gonna do that? Is
no,
that
the
what you-
Pat's,
Oh, and Pat's gonna have quilting? Oh, my
quilting
goodness.
demonstration.
Inside or outside?
Should be inside.
I would think inside, but.
Inside or outside, whatever.
yeah.
But the
You
food
need-
that she's gonna present, of course, would be inside, that you can take outside, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is great. This is really, really great.
Mm-hmm.
What a nice variety.
Yeah.
So you guys need applause.
Mercy.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you came and shared all that, because I was like, we gotta say something about Heritage Days, but we don't know what to say.
It's, it's
So
gonna
it's
be
great.
a family-oriented event, and then parts of it will not be so much of a family-oriented event. So you're gonna have something for everybody.
Yeah.
And looking at, there's gonna be a lot to do, and it would be great if we could get a lot of the locals to show up and at least, walk through the downtown area
Yeah.
to see what's going on, because from what I understand, we should have a pretty good a crowd of people from out of town coming to
There
town.
always is for
Yeah.
Heritage Days.
Yeah.
I think Facebook and all the social media, and I think people since COVID, they're sticking around
They're sticking
closer to home, so
yeah,
maybe a lot of the locals will show up this year.
yeah.
So when is all this gonna happen?
October 23rd, Saturday, October 23rd.
Sounds good.
So, and then as soon as Rural Heritage is done, we go into the Spirit Reunion, so.
And what time does it start? We didn't say that.
Spirit Reunion, Rural Heritage?
Well, pretty much 10 to 4.
10 to 4,
although,
or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure the shops will stay open as long as there's people.
It's
Yeah,
both
right.
days,
It's just Saturday the 23rd.
just Saturday.
Mhm. And we do have a Facebook page for this. I don't think we mentioned that.
Yes, you did.
Did we?
So keep sharing it, keep sharing them, and then we'll all keep sharing.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's
Did you
St.
make it?
Genevieve Rural Heritage Days.
Yeah,
is the
I shared
Facebook
it
page
today,
name.
so everybody would have a list tonight to go by if they wanted to watch, so.
Did you make
I
an
don't know
event?
who's on my thing, but whatever.
Didn't make an event.
Those
This-
are very easy to share, and it gives them
Yeah.
all the information.
What's
Plus,
that?
they can see their friends are going.
Yeah.
What's that, Kathy?
An event, I was wondering if they made an
On
event on
Facebook.
Facebook.
Oh.
Because it's
So-
easy to share, it's easy to see, your friends are gonna be there, and,
Oh, because it says who's interested and all that
right,
stuff.
right, and who's going, and who's interested, and they can read all about it, and those events are really nice. I do that a lot. A lot of my friends do it. Even if they're not gonna go, they still do it because they're thinking about going, and then it'll come up on their feed to remind them that it's coming up.
That's
So-
a good idea. I mean, I still could do that this
Mhm.
year. I kind of stepped in a little bit later on.
Mhm,
I was
yeah.
stepping back and
Mhm.
Well, you
letting
still
things
have, you still
happen.
have over
Oh,
a
yeah.
week, and then
Yeah.
people don't really make plans
Oh, yeah.
until the last minute anyway.
So I can still make an event. At first I was like, what Facebook page that I help run should I do this on? And I got added to the Rural Heritage one. Kind of last
But
minute.
I don't know if people, maybe general Facebook too, because a lot of people don't know
What's
Oh,
really
to go
going
to
on.
Rural Heritage,
Yeah.
like I did.
Exactly. So whenever I create things on there, the Welcome Center turns around and shares it. That's how
Right.
it ends up shared on all the other pages.
But then it don't go to everybody, only the ones that are hooked up to Welcome Center.
What's
So if you
really
do
going
public,
on,
Yeah,
what's really
it's-
going on is like one of
yeah,
the
if
best.
you do public,
Yeah.
then everybody,
Oh yeah,
Gets it,
it's on
It gets
all of
there.
those pages. I
Yeah.
guarantee. If you go there right now, you'll probably see 2 or 3 in a row.
And then I shared it on my personal page.
yeah, and I did too,
Once you
so,
get it.
yeah,
The
and I think if
Memorial
we all do
Cemetery
that, it'll
page
go
shares
really
it.
good, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because I just can't believe all the people that are coming, it's so great,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
and we hope to get bigger and better next year. So
Yeah.
we're gonna start planning next year's pretty much right away. We'll maybe get past Christmas. Come January, we hit it hard. And so if anybody is watching and they want to take part this year even, or if you want to wait till next year, just contact us.
I think this is what makes St. Genevieve authentic. This is
Yes.
what we're built on. This is bringing back into, and a lot of people don't know exactly which ones to come to, but this would be the one to
Right,
come
and
to
they've
see
been
them
coming to
making
Heritage
things and
Days
stuff.
anyway for years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think too, tonight, I think I passed, I stopped at the post office before I came up here. There was one group of 5 and another group of 4 across the street that I had no idea who they were. Looked like they were walking back down to Main Street to their places to stay,
Yeah.
our restaurant, yeah. So there's a lot of people been visiting
There's a lot
town.
of people that have come to town since,
In fact, we're number 2, I think, on the best towns to visit in the
Oh.
country. Is it in the country, isn't it? Because I think they were
Yeah.
Oregon and
Yeah.
all that. We were number 2 today.
that's pretty darn good.
That's
Yeah.
pretty, that's great.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
And it seems like everybody that comes to St. Genevieve, most of them just love it here. We've had so many people move here from St. Louis and everywhere. I mean, all over the states, they just come here, love it, and
Mhm.
eventually move here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And let them come back.
Okay, I'll
home.
shut up and you guys.
Yes.
Okay, next on the line.
Well, it would be the Spirit Reunion, and I'm gonna let Ellie,
Okay. Yeah, when Heritage Days closes down, we go to the spirit reunion in the cemetery. And normally, we always have it the last Saturday in,
No, the fourth Saturday in October.
I always thought it was the last, well,
It works out to
it
be the
works out to be
Yeah.
about the last.
Yeah.
But we're going to do it a little bit different
Different
this
this
year. We're going to try something, and we're going to give people the opportunity to meet the spirits at 4 o'clock in the Guyboard Valley House.
Yeah.
The garden of the
The garden.
Guyboard Valley, and this is free to the public. The spirits will be there, and then we will do a spirit parade from the Guyboard Valley, from Merchant into the entrance to the cemetery.
Cemetery.
So that would be a little bit more than what we've done in the past, but,
Right.
go ahead, Ellie, take it,
Yeah.
take
Well,
it.
this year we have the most spirits I think we've ever had. Where if
Yeah.
everybody shows
Really?
up and doesn't get sick, we should
Isn't
have
that great?
31 spirits.
31?
Yeah.
31 spirits.
31
my
spirits,
word.
that's,
Wow.
And
That's a
is-
lot.
Great, that
And
is.
as much as I can figure, this is the 19th year that we've done this.
I know, and it's so hard when you first start something and you think, well, I hope it works this year, and maybe
Yeah.
we'll do it again next year, but maybe we won't. And then when you start doing it, it gets more successful. You don't keep track of that
The
first
years.
year to say, this is the first year of something that will go on forever.
Right.
And then you go, when did
Yeah,
we start?
Well, as
Yeah.
far as I can remember, it's 19 years. This is the
Yeah.
19th year. And I want to remind everybody that several years ago, the Spirit Reunion was given the governor's trophy for,
Fabrication? No, I'm sorry.
No.
I don't know,
I
I'm
can't
trying to
remember
remember
what's
how
it-
it's stated.
yeah.
We just got the governor's trophy.
Yeah, we got the
Yeah, we got
governor's
the
trophy.
governor's We did. And that was only in about our fourth or
Fourth or
fifth
fifth-
year.
It was
It
in a
was-
short time.
It was in a very short time that we
So,
got that.
it was for Humanities Award.
Mhm.
That
Oh.
was, and, so it's continued to grow every year. Last year, we weren't so sure with the COVID and so forth, we weren't sure we were going to have very many people, but we had more than we had expected
Yeah.
that showed up. And we're
People
hoping
were-
this year is going to be just humongous.
Yeah,
So-
people were ready to get out. They
Oh, yeah.
and we
anything to get out of
also
the
want to
house.
remind people that this is not a scary event, but it's
History.
a fun historic event.
Yeah,
We
So-
tell the stories
We-
of
yes.
those who are buried there. And when I mentioned the parade of spirits from the Guyboard Valley to the cemetery, that was the path that they took for their burial. So it went up Merchant Street to the entrance to the cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
So we will be following that same path, and everybody's welcome to come out. It's going to be a parade, and, the children can watch us. And we would like for you to come into the cemetery and hear our stories. But, if you just, have small children and you don't want to venture there, bring them out and just to see us
Just
as
to
we
see the
parade
spirits, yeah.
to the cemetery. It seems like St. Genevieve people come out for parades. They really like the parades.
they like
Yes,
the
they do.
parades, yeah.
This will be a
And the
different
kids like the
parade.
candy.
Yeah.
Well, we won't
Oh,
be
yeah, you
throwing the
didn't think
candy.
about that.
No
We talked-
candy.
Yeah.
Now, this is on the 23rd.
The
23rd.
23rd of October, yes.
23rd.
And
Yeah.
that spirit
October
parade,
23rd.
It's right
It
after,
starts-
right after Heritage Days.
Heritage.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
The Spirit Parade, we'll leave the Guyboard Valley House at probably about 4:45 and then make our way to the
And
cemetery
that's
to
where
be
you're going
there.
to meet there?
Pardon me?
Yeah.
Is that where people are
We're
going to meet?
meeting at the Guyboard
At the
Valley
Guyboard.
House, yes.
Yes.
And then,
And the actual spirit reunion is from 5 to 8.
The Foundation for Restoration of St. Genevieve owns the Guyboard Valley House, and the Foundation for Restoration of St. Genevieve is also
Administers the
the
cemetery.
sponsor. Yeah, we're the
Yeah.
sponsor of the Spirit Reunion.
I have a question.
sure.
The lighting in the cemetery.
Okay, we generally have, if the weather is chilly, we have some fire pits around, so that gives some light. All of the spirits have a lantern to light their spot, and then we give to the people that come a lantern or a flashlight.
So they can see
so
where
they
they're
can see
walking.
their way around. Now, of course, at 5 o'clock, it's bright out and
It's kind of
It's starting to get a little
starting to get a
hazy,
little
yeah.
hazy,
Yeah,
at
yeah.
that time.
by 8 o'clock, it's dark.
Dark.
It's, yeah,
And
well,
it's
even
dark.
by 6:30.
And is the moon
yeah.
out that night? I don't
I
remember.
don't, this
The
year,
full
I'm not
moon will
sure.
be the 20th, so this will be the 23rd.
So
So
we
it
only
should be
should
pretty,
have-
pretty
Yeah.
bright.
Right.
That'll
Yeah.
be neat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
could be.
yeah. Some years it's been very, very dark. But like I said, none of this is come and see the ghoulish spirits and be scared to death. We're there to tell the history. We're not there to make anybody, be scared.
We're going to tell the history,
Of
Yeah.
St.
the
Genevieve
story
people.
of
Yeah.
people who were actually buried in the cemetery and who lived here or who were here when they passed away.
Right. Some of
Now,
them,
does John Orms, does he still participate?
yes, he does.
He
Good.
is Dr. Lynn,
Good,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
or Senator.
He's been doing
Lynn.
that for
Yes,
years.
Since the very beginning.
yeah.
Yeah, I think our
He's
first
been-
one, we
he's
had like
been
6 or
Senator
8
Lynn
Right,
forever.
it was very slim, yeah.
It was very slim pickings at the beginning,
Mhm.
and we had to not say actor to be a spirit, that they had to be an interpreter. And so it was hard to get people, they were like, oh, I don't think I could do that, act out a spirit. But if they were just interpreting the spirits, they could do it. And now, almost every year, people that come to see it come up afterwards and say, can I do it next year? Is there
That's
That's
so
exactly
neat.
what happened. We have 2 new spirits that were so enthralled with last year's event that they asked to be,
Boy, isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
And then you just
It's
memorized
great.
your person.
well, yes,
Right.
they
Or learn your
researched,
person.
they find a spirit, or a person that had been, and they read about their
Read about it,
history.
research it.
Yeah,
That is so neat.
yeah.
You guys might want to tell more people that it's not scary, because I thought it was scary.
You did?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
And I'm a lifetime resident.
We
Oh.
But I
always-
did, I thought it was
We
scary.
always tell everybody that it's
It's
not
not-
scary. It's
We
always
we
scary.
hope it's not scary. We try
guess I
not.
haven't
Maybe
seen
if you're
it
scared of
or
the dark,
anything.
it might be.
I was thinking for
Maybe.
kids, I was thinking it was a adult thing, like.
No, we have a
Yeah.
lot of children.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
we have a
I
lot.
found that out tonight, but I didn't
Yeah.
know that yesterday.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would, yeah, make
And
sure
it would be,
people
it
know
would
that.
really be good to see a lot of locals,
Right.
This is, you drive by there almost every day. It would be good to have an idea of what's going on with
Right.
some of the people buried there. And
and
I
some of
usually
their
ask,
ancestors.
yes,
Yeah.
I usually ask, well, where are you from? And very rarely
Always
do I hear St.
St.
Genevieve.
I was putting up the sign for the spirit reunion at the cemetery, and a gentleman, a young guy walked by, and he said, "What are you doing?" And I told him what I was doing, and he said, I said, "Are you from here?" He said, "Yeah, I just live down the street," and he had no idea when the cemetery started. When it
Started.
was, he said, I said, "It's the oldest cemetery in Missouri," and he said, "Really?" He knew nothing about anything that I was telling him about, and he lived about 2 blocks away.
Right,
Yeah.
isn't the date on it 17?
Yeah,
1787.
Huh?
1787.
Okay, I was thinking it was earlier.
Lucille Balzer's not here.
Because they were
That's the
talking about
problem.
Yeah,
taking
that
that.
was,
Yeah.
yeah.
At one time, they were gonna take that
When you
date
live
off
2
of there.
blocks away and you don't know.
Yeah, I remember saying, no,
She's the
you
one that
take
taught
that
me
date
all
off of
about
there.
that stuff.
No,
Yeah.
no.
I don't
Yeah,
remember
and
who
it-
was wanting to remodel that thing and.
Oh,
do it.
no.
You
that-
can't take that date off
No,
of there.
you can't.
No way.
That tells too much about it. And
It
it
does.
closed in 1882. So none of these spirits have walked the earth in 140 years. So
Right.
even if it's the last person buried, which is her,
Which is me.
it's still a long, long time ago. So you're
Right.
still going to get a story that happened a long time ago.
Isn't there one that's buried pretty recently in there?
That's, would be Odeo Pratt
O'Neill Pratt Valley.
Valley, but
Okay.
it's
She
not
lived
that
up,
recent.
did she live uptown there? Where did she
She
live?
lived in the
She
Felix
lived in
Valley.
the Felix Valley
Down in the
house, yeah,
Felix Valley house?
Yeah.
Okay. Is she the lady that was upstairs sick for a long time? Or
Well,
was that?
she lived to be almost 90 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What year did she pass?
1794.
1894.
1894.
Chelsea,
Okay,
why
that's
don't you tell the story?
That's a
Yeah,
lady.
go ahead.
Of
Now,
Odeo
that's
Cat,
a lady
Odeo.
that-
Well, wait a minute, Ellie should tell it. We shouldn't tell the story, I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's a
Can
lady
you-
that was
you
up
got
there
to
that I'm
calm
talking
that
about.
Yes,
down.
you
I
have to
remember
calm
that.
story.
that.
She was upstairs.
She was buried later.
Yeah. She
Yes.
was upstairs in the bed, and they had an open house downstairs. They had the rooms all roped off, the table set beautiful, and you could go in and walk through that hall and look in all the rooms and see everything. And she was upstairs sick in bed.
No.
I remember that, but I don't remember what year it was.
You
It was
remember from
many, many, many years ago.
1894?
This-
It wouldn't have been. it
No,
wouldn't
not
have-
1894.
It would have been Felix
What
Valdez.
time, okay, what
It-
year did you say?
Odile died in 1894.
Oh, 1894. Okay, there was
Yeah.
somebody upstairs.
Somebody else. It
Up-
might have been Mrs.
It was a
Rozier.
relative. It was a relative.
Must have been Mrs. Rozier.
Did they live
Yeah.
in that house too?
They were
Okay.
the last families to live in that house.
Okay, well then that's probably who it was, but not 1894.
No,
No.
no.
I'm not that
I
old.
wouldn't think it would have been there.
Better memory than all the rest of us.
Yeah.
But
I
there was,
thought
there
you
was a
said
span,
19.
No.
Yeah.
there was a span of like 10 years
Yeah.
between
Yeah.
the last burial and the really last
Last
burial.
burial, yeah.
And there was a reason for that really last burial.
But don't.
I'm
tell
not
anybody.
saying
They
a
gotta-
word.
yeah, they
That's
gotta
your
come
story.
and listen to
Yes.
that
That's part of
story.
the
That's right.
surprise.
Yeah.
And it's a great story.
It is.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and I will just say
1894.
Well,
that half the people in St. Genevieve should want to hear that story.
Right. Tell us who you are. Just tell us who you are. Don't have,
You
Yeah,
don't know who I
introduce-
am?
no, I've
Everybody
never met
introduce
you
yourself.
Do
before.
you not
Yeah.
know me? Do you not
You're
know
Mike,
who I am?
aren't you?
Do you know who I am?
You're Mike, aren't you?
Oh,
No, that's,
no.
that's my
Oh, you mean your person name.
great-grandson's great-great-grandson. His name,
No, I
Mike.
don't know who you are
Yeah.
then.
I'm, according to Dr. Carl Eckberg, I'm a virtual unknown who's responsible for thousands of pages of documents that you're going to find in the courthouse and also buried in the vaults of Madrid, Spain. That's the person who I am.
And your name
And my name
is?
is Francois Leclerc.
Okay.
Francois
Leclerc.
Leclerc.
But you'll have to come to find
To
the
hear,
rest of
who
the
he
to hear
is.
my story. Now, I'm not sure what story I'm going to tell. I might even tell the story about my wife.
Oh,
Because she has a very interesting story, too. And it depends on if those people had heard my story before, then I will shift gears and talk about her. And all I will say about my wife is that when I passed away at a very young age, she was
younger than Iris?
very. She went by the name of Veuve Leclerc, which in French, Veuve means widow. So she was a widow Leclerc, and she lived to be in her 80s, late in her 80s. But anyway, she was, without giving too much away, I would just say that there is written proof that when I passed away, when they did the estate inventory, which was common among the French, that there were an on, which is a length of material. There were like 1,400 ons of material in the estate inventory, which if
She
you,
and I must be related.
1,400,
Yeah.
times about 3 foot, you're gonna come up with almost a mile worth of material, which kind of tells us that she was probably a
Seamstress.
Yeah.
seamstress, yeah. In addition to all the handkerchiefs that she had and 15 sets of bedding, and so it was probably,
And she probably made them all.
well, yeah, she no, she did not make them all, but I'm sure she made some of
Lot
them.
of
She had help. She had a lot of help.
Yeah.
And it was a family member, or people close to family, I should say, without telling too much of the story.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
something that I don't want to say because I save it for even if I tell my story, that the estate inventory, I do talk about it a little bit
Yeah.
and other things that are on it. But that was one thing that was on. There was numerous things. It was like 9 pages of the estate inventory of what
Oh,
they
cool.
own. We were wealthy. We were very wealthy. for the time, because I was the
Scribe.
scribe. Very good. I was the scribe for the wealthiest man, and I'm not going to say his name, but I was the scribe for the wealthiest man in Upper Louisiana. In addition to being, he was a big businessman. In addition to being doing the civil records. So I think I better just stop there.
So
Yeah.
you were a very famous person.
No, I wasn't. I was a virtual unknown, like Dr. Carl Eckberg describes me. In Colonial St. Genevieve, he describes me as a virtual unknown. Because most people don't know who I am.
Right.
And that's why, who am I? Who do I
Yeah.
portray? Well, I told you, but I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
So,
But that's all right.
but that's all right.
Yeah.
But now, whenever you come to see me at the spirit reunion, and I ask if you know who I am,
We'll say no, we forgot.
well, then I will say, then Dr. Carl Eckberg was correct.
Right, yeah, just write it down.
Yes. But not only that, but I'm also the great-grandfather.
Oh,
Yes,
that's
sir.
right.
And
That's
who are
right,
you
I
gonna
forgot about that.
If you do the
That moves right
genealogy
into
and
it.
put it together,
And
this
who
would
are
be
you,
my
please?
great-grandson.
I'm Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Felix St. James.
St. James?
St. James, yes. I was born St. Jim, the son of Augustus and Desiree St. Jim.
Leclerc, whose maiden name was Leclerc.
Yeah, I don't know.
She was my granddaughter.
She never told me that.
Well,
They act like they don't get it.
Yeah, that's not important. You know, the only
You're
important
Saint-
name's
So
St.
you
Jim.
were St. Jim,
Yeah, but I changed my name to St. James.
St. James
St.
instead.
James, yeah. Because if you think about it,
Saint.
St. Jim
Would be St. James.
would be St. James.
Right.
Yeah.
In the English version. I was a lawyer in town. I married Suzanne Sargent, and we had 2 children. One of our sons was named Ichabod. He was named after his grandfather, Ichabod Sargent. Then we had a daughter, and her name was Isabel. And so in 1854, I ran for the, how do you say this, Attorney General of Missouri, but I didn't win. So in 1859, I became because the Northern Party, which I was a member of, went out of existence basically, and became what we know now as the Republican Party. I became very active in the Republican politics and helped President Lincoln get elected. So when the Civil War, beg pardon?
That's my ancestry.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So when the Civil War started, I joined the Union Army. I was the first man in the southeast region of Missouri to join the Union Army. Became a lieutenant colonel, eventually ending up in the 13th Missouri Infantry as a lieutenant colonel. And one of the events that happened here during the Civil War in St. Genevieve was the raid on down at the Merchant Bank on Merchant Street. And so I was I acted as a guide for that regiment. But I'm telling you all this to be honest with you, but at the Battle of Shiloh, was mortally wounded on April 6, 1862. Then on April the 8th, I died, and on April the 15th, I was buried in the cemetery. So I was 31 years old.
Oh, my goodness. That's amazing. I have my great-great-great-grandfather is down on the river in Brazos Creek. He owned ground down there in the 1700s. And he's buried in the woods somewhere, and nobody knows where.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens.
So there's a lot of
unfortunately.
history,
Yeah.
you know.
But
Yeah.
my grave's not marked now, or it had been marked, you know,
Then
because,
stuff
but yeah, but
rots
it's not
away,
marked.
and, yeah.
But we know that to go in the present time, we know that he's buried next to his father.
Oh,
So we do know that. But that's all we really know.
yeah, all those stories are so interesting, so
Oh, yeah.
interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
we're
we're
skipping you,
Yeah.
Ellie, you wanna
What?
introduce
You
yourself?
said Odile Pratt, but do you wanna say anything else about her?
About Odile?
Odile, yeah?
Well, she was the one that gave 3/4 of the money that built the present church that you all, the big Catholic church
Okay.
that you see
Right.
there. She was from a very, she married Felix Valet, who was a very wealthy family. I don't want to tell you too much about her because she
That's
is,
okay.
Right.
she was 17 when she married Felix Valet, and Felix Valet was a very prominent citizen here. He was involved in education and getting teachers for the schools. He helped get sidewalks put into town. It did a lot of philanthropic things, and she outlived her husband. Felix died in 1877, and she lived to 1894. She was 89 and 8 months old when she passed away.
Which for the time was pretty old.
She was,
Yeah.
yes. Well, that whole family was. Felix was 88. Her father-in-law, Jean-Baptiste Valet, was 89. And
Well, they ate better back then.
well, they might not have worked as hard as other people too.
Well, that's true
Yeah.
too, yeah.
But they had good genes. You know, that whole line of family lived
That's good genes.
to be very old for the time.
Good genes.
And Marie Louise Villeneuve Leclerc, her maiden name was Valley. Marie, my spouse, Marie
Yeah.
Louise Valley, and she would have been a cousin.
The Valets had, Odile had many nephews and nieces, but she and Felix only had one child, Louis, who died as a young man of 33, but he never married, so they had no direct heirs when they passed away.
Darn.
Okay, thank you, yeah.
And
Now, who are you, Miss Chelsea?
Well, all I'm really going to tell you is I'm Juliana Suker. My maiden name was Siebert. I had a very short time in St. Genevieve, and it was very sad. But if you want to hear the rest, you'll have to come see me.
All
There
right,
you go.
we can do that.
And we were all French, and if I'm not mistaken, you're not?
I am not.
Oh.
I am German.
She's German.
I was
German.
afraid to tell everybody here that I was German, though. In the present, at this moment.
Yeah.
And you, Madame?
I am, in general, the spirit of the cemetery, and I give you an overview of the history of the cemetery as it is, and where it came from, and where it's been, and how it has developed, and who owns it now, and who did own it, where, that was an interesting story. And so I used to have spirits, and then somebody would want to be a spirit, and they wanted to be who I was, and I'd give it up, and then I'd develop another spirit, and they'd ask to be who I was. And so finally I decided I would just be the spirit of the cemetery. Nobody ever wants that, and so I can do that and not have to give it up. But I've been 3 or 4 other characters, and they're all being done by other people now. So
That's so great.
That's
so-
a compliment. That's
Yeah.
a big compliment.
Well, I hope so. That I'm glad they're still being represented and out there. So that's a good thing. And
I just love that outfit, Chelsea.
Yeah.
That
I am
is so
siding
cute.
with this in the worst way.
well, and of course, it all depends on the weather. We October is the good time because of as you can see, we're in many layers of clothing, and not that Gary would be warm in June in that wool outfit.
I'm sitting there sweating like a hog in heat, right?
So we did it early on. We changed times of the year a couple times. We did it one time during French Festival at noon.
Oh, my goodness.
That was it. We had nobody come, and we never did it again then.
And the blistering heat, huh?
Yeah, but even in October, we've had years when it's been
Very.
And where we
warm.
fought the mosquitoes, we
Yeah.
had spray, and we've been freezing,
Yeah, so
Oh, my
We've only
gosh.
been rained out once, In
Yes,
19
Isn't that
yes,
wonderful?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, about
That's
3
great.
years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, but, you know, the year we decided we were gonna make hot chocolate and sell it to people, it was so hot, nobody wanted any hot chocolate, and,
Scratch that
so
out.
scratch that, yeah. And, then it was so cold that we got, pits that we could build fires in, and some years we light them, and some years we don't. So we'll never know. But I did want to mention, since we haven't gotten to this, it's $10 for adults, it's $5 for students, and you can buy your tickets online. This is the first year we've been able to do that. So if you go to historicstgen.org, historicstgen.org, then it's, you can purchase your tickets online. You can have the receipt on your phone, and you just have to show the receipt, or you can print it out and hand that in, and that will get you your tickets if you want to have them
Great.
in advance. Yeah.
Where do you pick your tickets up otherwise?
At
gate.
the gate. We have people just taking money at the
Okay,
gate, and
good.
we like
So, and you prefer to have the $10, right? Correct change
correct change. That would be nice, but we hope we've got enough,
to come.
got that covered, and we started out with having so few people involved that the idea of putting tickets around town was just too much, and now we've got the technology, and we've already sold. The last count I heard was 20 tickets, which
Oh,
is
that's
pretty good,
yeah.
because it was very late before we got the
So-
ability to do that. And we were in AAA's Explorer magazine, and I can tell you almost exactly the day it came out and what time somebody got it in off the mail, because my phone started ringing immediately
That is wonderful.
with people asking, you know, where they could stay, you know, how they could get tickets, and we've gotten many calls from that article, and
That's
so that's
great.
been
Yeah.
been very well done, and people
That's
are
great.
coming for the weekend to participate, and so I think,
So the town pretty well fills up and it's a good thing we can have
Oh,
all
yeah.
the Airbnbs we have now.
yes.
And they're all
Oh,
so
gosh.
beautiful.
Oh,
Gosh.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So,
For those that come, I will pretty much guarantee you that you will not get to every station.
Yeah, pretty much guarantee what?
You will not be able to see every ghost.
Oh,
For
because
the time frame that we have from 5 to 8, and there's 30 some odd
yeah,
ghosts.
people.
Wow.
So
You
you'll
won't-
have to come back to next year.
Yeah.
yeah,
So if you don't see anybody this year, like if you don't see Chelsea this year, come back next year, you know. Because, I mean, it's just, because by the time you walk from one station to another,
How long are your presentations? About 5
well, it
minutes?
depends on who you're listening to.
If you got a long-winded person,
I'm usually
it's,
about 5 minutes,
Five.
and that's why Mickey's really the walking ghost, because she used to take 25, 30 minutes, and so they fired her from that and said, you're just a walking ghost.
I can go 5 minutes, or I can go 30 minutes.
Right.
and,
And people ask you
people ask.
questions.
yeah, and that
then-
makes it longer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just curious. like,
right, and you can see crowds of people around spirits, and then you know that there's a lot of conversation going on between the ghost and the spirit and the people that are listening, and that's good, that's
Yeah,
what
because
we
they
want.
learn a lot by the
Yeah.
questions
Yeah,
they ask.
yeah,
Because I tell them things about the Civil War that you don't normally see, like, my
Right.
lights is a bayonet with a candle in it, so
Oh, okay.
that's, you know, and then I tell the story of why that's relevant, you know, to the Civil War era.
and I bring them being hurricanes, so if the wind is blowing, he can keep him lit up,
Last year I needed it.
yeah, so,
Yeah, the first year I went ahead and participated, I gave my talk, and then I go, well, I wonder if I did that right. So the second year, the next year after that, I came in and did a tour of the spirit and listened to as many as I could. And by the end of the night, I said, well, I guess I did okay then, the
Yeah.
previous year. So then I jumped back on board and became the spirit again. And I'm probably of the spirits, and looking at the list, I'm the oldest, or the first burial of all the spirits, from dating of when I passed away and when
Oh,
I was
my
buried.
goodness.
Yeah.
So I was born in New France, and when I say New France, everybody knows I'm talking about
Canada.
Canada, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, I was not born in St. Genevieve, but I came here at a young age. So, and like I said, I died at a young age. But
But you did a lot in between those.
I did. I feel like I did,
Yeah.
right? And I have, like I said, I can talk 30 minutes. And if I, just on me, and if I go with Veuve Leclerc, Marie-Louise Valley, I can add probably another 10 minutes to that. And then if I go second generation and third generation, his mother, then I
Yeah.
could probably go another 30 minutes. So
Skip knows.
I won't.
Or Francois knows his genealogy, so he's very
I
aware. of
turned
have a
over a lot
cousin
of
like
rocks
that.
about the
Yeah.
Leclercs.
I have a cousin that knows our whole genealogy too.
Yeah.
And I can't remember one thing she tells me for more than a couple minutes.
Well, and the people of St. Genevieve, if you've been here for a few generations, you probably have an ancestor that is buried in that cemetery.
Probably so.
Yeah.
I have 11 grandparents buried in the
11
cemetery.
grandparents.
11 grandparents, great, of course. But I was going down the list one day, and ended up being of Vital and Felicity Beauvais, Pauline Robert, Louis LaRose. I mean, it's
Listen
just
to him, he can remember all them names.
Yeah.
it's.
Yeah.
Francois, of course, myself, Francois. I mean, I'm talking about the name you use. My great grandson's great grandson has 11,
Yeah.
at least 11 grandparents,
Mhm.
and that's how I got involved. I said, wow. I started turning over rocks and oh, that's a grandparent of mine.
Yeah.
And it's just trying to find out as much as I
Right.
could about it.
So
Okay.
Mickey, what about your family, or Jack's family? Were they here forever? Or?
Jack's family, through his mom's side of the family, they go back until the 1700s.
Do they?
And then my sisters got into doing genealogy and found out that we are related to the founding fathers of St. Louis and of St. Genevieve. And so I need to get those lists and try, so I probably have ancestors in that cemetery also, because I just assumed that I didn't at all have ancestors here.
Right.
And but apparently I do.
And
so,
that's how I am down in Perryville in the cemetery.
yeah,
Lots of ancestors.
yeah, yeah.
Way back when.
So we figure that Jack and I are related going back, both of us,
Oh.
about 10 generations.
But that's okay.
And, yeah, and then meeting and then coming forward to
Yeah.
10 generations.
I think
so,
my mom and dad were related too, back
Yeah,
when they first came over from Germany and
You
France.
won't find many French families that don't
don't,
cross
Right.
somewhere back.
somewhere.
Well,
yeah.
there weren't that many people around, what do you expect?
No, yeah, yeah.
And
you
the
had to.
French were too good at keeping records.
Right, so you
Yeah.
could,
So were the
yeah,
Spanish.
keep
Yes.
track of things.
And when you got the Spanish and French together, is what you had here.
Oh,
There wasn't nothing that wasn't going to get, written down or,
And recorded and
Yes.
kept forever.
yes.
And kept forever.
They didn't do
yeah.
anything with it, so,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So what about you, Chelsea? Have you got any links here at all, or just?
I am pretty certain I am from more of like the Piedmont Silva area.
For where?
Piedmont or Silva.
Oh, really?
So yeah, a lot of family in that area. There is one John Montgomery buried in our cemetery here though that I need to do a little bit more digging on.
So you may
And
have-
there,
So I might.
they were frequent travelers from here to there too. in
Yeah.
that time, years ago,
Yeah.
from Potosi and,
Yeah,
what's that,
It really is.
Potnam?
yeah, it
And
really
all
is
those
surprising
towns up
how
Because
much
that was
they did
part of us
travel.
then, at
Yeah.
that time, yeah.
And went back and forth,
It's interesting.
yeah. It
Yeah, our
is.
insurance salesman was Creole, let's see. What's the ones in no,
Acadians, or,
um, well, forget it.
yeah.
I'll think about it
Well-
one of these days.
There are
Caucasian, no, that's white people.
Cajun?
Cajun, no.
No.
Cajun? Pawpaw. What's
Oh,
that, French
pawpaw,
pawpaw?
French,
French, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
he wrote me a story about his grandparents.
yeah.
And it's so cute, yeah.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
he learned, he grew up with them, so he knew all of his grandparents, and they all spoke
Pawpaw
Pawpaw.
French.
That was the
French, yeah.
French
Yeah,
language,
right.
Here.
Pawpaw
Here,
French,
which was
Right.
here,
which
yeah.
instead of what, bonjour, it's
Yeah.
a bonjour.
Bonjour.
It's like maybe a little bit of a
Slang.
redneck in us a
Slang,
little bit.
redneck, yeah,
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 since we
yeah.
came here
With an
from France
accent and-
or
yeah.
Canada and here to the wilderness and, you know.
And maybe people couldn't talk really plain, and people
Yeah.
just didn't understand
And-
and stuff.
and
Just like
just
spelling
kinda
of
got
the names
lazy
and all
about
that
things
stuff too.
and-
They would
Yeah.
say the name and they'd write it however they thought it was.
Yeah, and y'all, I mean, that, the
Oh,
southern thing,
that's,
instead of
that's
saying
Leadville.
it and enunciated, you all, it
Y'all.
got slurred, y'all. and-
that's a Leadville.
Right, right, but that same thing happening in French gets that bonjour instead of
Bonjour.
bonjour.
Bonjour. Yeah,
You know,
you
they-
hear it 3 or 4 different ways, it means the same.
Right.
Hello.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's
Now,
not
all
the-
that is
it's
so
not-
interesting.
It's not Parisian French.
Right, exactly.
No, no.
It-
But
Okay,
there are 3,000 to 5,000 people that are supposed to be buried in that cemetery,
really?
and there are only 300 stones left. So we don't know where everybody is
So
buried.
isn't there a mass graves in there too? where
There is,
several-
are the victims of the explosion of the Dr. Franklin Chew. So that blew up in 1852. So there is a mass grave, and we do kind of know where it's at. So, and that's who
But
we have.
not really,
But-
I mean,
Yeah,
We have an idea.
we
we
have,
have
But
an
that was a
idea.
paddle boat,
It was,
Yes,
it was,
yeah,
yeah.
this is-
so going up the river, coming
Yeah,
down the
coming
river.
It was
down the
going
river.
Well,
down.
aren't some of
Yeah.
those windows down in the
At the
Shawl House.
Shaw House?
New Miami Shaw
We
House.
have
The
a
doors
set
there,
doors.
yeah.
Yeah,
uh,
mhm,
yeah, they came from one of the salons
Yeah.
in that steamer.
yeah, so you have all these extensions out, you start thinking, oh, that has a connection to the cemetery,
Yeah.
or you can make a connection to it, but if people come in and they don't have a stone, and we don't know where they're buried, they get to choose a spot.
Oh, okay.
And this doesn't have, a modern cemetery, you come in and you go to the office and you're looking for such and such a grave, and they tell you, go down here, make a right-hand turn, stop at the third row and go 10 stones in. That's not what happened here. They just started burying people, and if they put a wooden cross on it, in 10 years' time, that's gone.
Well,
Right.
even the iron crosses
Even the iron
disintegrated.
crosses, yeah.
Right.
By 75
And wasn't
years,
there even some of those above ground?
the boxes.
When I was young, I
Yeah.
remember a couple of them in there. Is there any left of those?
There are, yeah, there
There
are,
are just
still?
a couple, not
Yeah.
very many.
yeah,
Yeah, I remember those when I was a kid.
yeah, yeah, and even though, so the body is buried underground.
Right.
Yeah, and, but they didn't keep in a straight line or anything, they just went in and said, I'm gonna
Wherever there
bury,
was space.
I'm gonna bury Grandpa here, and, and they did until 1882, when they started digging up graves and finding bones. So that's when they decided they better
Get organized.
get out of there, because they had had many cholera epidemics, and they weren't sure if they opened a grave that had a cholera victim, if that would let the germs of the cholera
So did they
back
ever
up.
figure out if that would or not? I've often thought of that.
That has come up a number of times, and I've heard medical people say, oh, no, that couldn't happen, and medical people say, it
Oh, yeah.
might, you never know, so who
Yeah,
knows?
I've wondered about that with
Yeah.
the flu and
All
all
that
that Spanish flu
stuff.
and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff.
Yeah, so there's still a lot of people buried in that cemetery that we have no idea where they're at, and,
Basically, we know who's buried there, but we don't know
know
where
where.
they are.
yeah.
Okay, so Chelsea, you wanna talk about, the heritage, give the dates and the times and all that kind of stuff again? We're just kinda gonna refresh.
Yeah, so it's Saturday, October 23rd. Overall, it's probably around 10 to 4 for the time of that. What else would you like me to,
And
not
mostly
the
it's-
entire list?
No, you don't have to do
All
the
of the
entire
historic
list, just
homes?
kinda.
Yeah, so pretty much all of the historic homes are gonna be involved, so the Beauvais Amro House, the Center for French Colonial Life, the Bolduc and Lolumiere House with that, the Felix Valet House, the Guibord Valet House, and then you have our Shaw House.
And then all the fun things to
Sassafras.
do in town, all of
Yeah,
them.
I think the Main Street Inn is also having
And,
an event
okay,
that
is it
evening that I forgot
mostly
about.
on Main Street,
It's everywhere, all through downtown.
all through downtown?
All
Okay.
through
So
downtown,
it
all the way
would
up
be-
to the cemetery and all the way down to the Amro House on St. Mary's.
Okay, so the art guild can put their art out then, huh?
Yeah,
I'm certain they're doing something, and I
Yeah, that
probably
would
need to
be
check
neat.
in with them and
Yeah.
get them
Yeah.
added to
Pick
the
a
list
fellow
as
to
well.
do that.
If I'm on
Yeah.
a couple with my kids, what kind of things will I have to buy? Are there admissions that are free or anything
There's a
like
lot
that?
of there's a lot of free
Yeah,
activities.
yes.
Yeah.
lots.
Yeah.
the
so-
Guibord is gonna have tours during the day for a donation,
Okay,
so,
just so people know. I don't
Yeah.
have any small kids.
yeah.
But I was just saying if I did, you know,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
kind of,
The
What are they looking
Beauvais
to spend
Amro
and stuff
House
so they know how
has
to plan their
kids'
day?
games.
Yes,
Oh,
Big
yeah.
green
free
tree.
events down there.
I've been in houses when kids came in already, and they are so interested in
Oh,
those
yes.
old houses.
Yes.
It's amazing
It
to watch
is.
their little faces.
Mhm.
They just are just in
I
awe
know.
how people lived and how they lived compared to what they have now.
Right.
So I think it'd be really good to have young kids come to tour the houses, yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely,
is.
and at the Guibord and the Felix Ballet, we're gonna be in costume, period costume.
Mhm.
So that in itself is
Generally
gonna be.
speaking, we're gonna be like this all day because to change clothes for going into the evening.
I'm not
so-
gonna be in mourning all day.
All
I'll be
day,
in a day
okay.
dress and then I'll go into my morning mode.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's a morning outfit?
It is.
Yeah.
I thought I would mourn my death today.
Oh.
yeah.
I would put the veil on, but then,
Yeah.
you know,
Then nobody'd see you, so you
Yeah.
can leave it off.
yeah.
Put it on just so they can see how you look, or how they dress.
Let's see if I can make this work.
And people actually walked around like that
Oh, yes.
when they were in mourning?
Oh, yes.
Poor things.
you could rob a bank.
Yeah.
Okay, you can take it off.
But most of the activities and the demonstrations, there's no charge, I don't think, for anything,
No.
no.
Well, that's
So,
wonderful then.
Yeah.
That is, that's great.
Mhm.
Okay, and you want to reiterate the,
It's October 23rd,
5 to 8.
5 to 8. It's $10 at the door for adults and 5 for students
And children.
and children. Anything under the age of 5 is free.
free.
We're going to start off with this spirit parade,
Parade.
and we're going to parade from the Guibord Valley. We're going to come out on the porch and then go to the garden and maybe introduce the spirits and then parade down to the cemetery from there. And we'll have flashlights and lanterns so you can see your way through the cemetery, and the spirits themselves will have their lanterns so you can find them.
And we encourage children to come too, because they have a good time.
Oh, yes.
That's great, yeah.
Sometimes I think they have maybe more fun than the adults.
Adults do.
But it's hard to tell because the adults are having a great time too.
I have to tell you, I had one little boy who just kept looking at me and he kept saying, "Are you really alive?"
Oh, gosh, love him.
He wasn't sure.
Oh, how
He wasn't sure, you know, if
If
I,
you were a
what I was, you know, if I was.
She might
spirit or-
really be a spirit.
Yeah, she might, yeah, he wasn't sure if I was really a ghost or if I was really there.
How cute.
But he was so interested because he just kept, kept looking.
That is so cute.
But they do love it,
Yeah.
so.
Well, this is going to be an exciting day, the
Yes.
23rd of October, starting at 10 in the morning. So you can spend the whole day downtown St. Genevieve. Yeah.
And the evening. And the evening.
And the evening, yes, till 8 o'clock.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then you can run and get something to eat at one of the places that are open.
Yes, dinner at one of the nice restaurants.
Restaurants, right.
Plenty of good
And
places
we have
to
lots
eat.
of good eating places in
Oh,
St. John.
yes.
No bad ones.
For a small town, I always say we have more excellent places to eat than you can
And
even
the
imagine.
food's really, really good.
Oh,
too,
really good.
everywhere.
There's no place that you would say, don't go there.
Don't go
you
there,
know,
right.
Yeah, there's no place that you can say that about.
And you ask, well, what are you looking for?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard when people say,
Where's the best place to eat?
where's the best place to eat? And I say, well, what?
Well,
what-
where do you like the best?
Yeah. It's-
Well, it all
it's-
depends what
it
you
all
want to eat.
depends on what you want to eat, yeah. And we hopefully have not talked too much that you.
Oh,
No,
that's okay.
she's got a half an hour.
Eh.
She covers a lot in a lot.
I just brought a lot of paper in case I had to fill time, because I didn't know anybody else was gonna be here.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can start, Miss Kathy,
Oh,
with
do you
your
guys wanna leave? You wanna
domestic
leave?
violence.
No, I
I
want to
mean,
hear
I
what
want-
you
oh,
have to say.
Okay, good, I'll put you guys to work then. This kind of follows along, but there'll be some extra papers in there in a little bit, and I'm gonna have you guys play along. Okay, so, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I do domestic violence for St. Genevieve Community Service Forum, and I'm gonna pull out my, phone. I wanna give a definition of the Community Service Forum. Are you guys familiar with it? Okay. Let's see. It was formed in 1993, and it's called the St. Genevieve Community Services Forum. It is a partnership of local organizations and individuals that share information and work together on a variety of projects to improve the overall vitality and health of St. Genevieve County. And this is everything from the commissioners to the city people and police and the hospital and agencies like home health, like hospice services, teaching services, the nursing homes, just anybody who services anyone in St. Genevieve County, can let us know what's going on, and then we can get them, if, you have to go through Australia probably to get into the meeting, but, I mean, it's an open door, and we all get together and we think about things that would better our community. And so they got me to do the domestic violence, and I'm also in a group called St. John Cares, which is another offshoot of it. And we've been working on a resource guide. And so we revamped it, we've got it on paper, and now we're working on doing like a little booklet. And so we just got the go-ahead financially to do a booklet of the resources, so it's all different things. They do the affecting the drugs and the Narcan and the libraries there, and just all different agencies. It depends on who comes each month, because there's so many different. And they usually do a lunch, which is really nice too, so that's a working lunch if anybody's there. Okay, so I do the domestic violence for St. John County through that agency. And then this is, I got this from the Missouri Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault, and they put one of these out every year, and they give information on it. Let's see. I wasn't sure how this was going to play out. So what this says here is that they did 8,928 surveys on domestic violence, and 93% of the people they surveyed were gaining knowledge, and 95% were having strategies to negotiate through the domestic violence they were in. They had 26,718 requests for help that were unmet, and they had 321,849 hours of advocacy to help people in the situations. There's just so much information on this. 81% of children served were 12 and under, and 24% of those were 0 to 2 years old, and the 58% were adults, and 38% of those were 25 to 35 years old. And then on the domestic violence statistics regionally, in southeast Missouri, which is where we are, they had 30,645 bed nights, which means they put them up in a shelter, and 6,705 bed nights for transitional housing, which is not the shelter, but to get them in a place before they get into like an apartment or something.
Kathy, is this over Missouri?
This is just Missouri.
Just-
Yeah, this is the Missouri Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault. So they said that, let's see, 47% of requests for housing were unmet. So 47% of the people that needed someplace to stay weren't able to stay. I'm just going to kind of go through these real quick just to kind of give you an idea of what that stuff just did. And then sexual violence is part of domestic violence, but it can be independent of it. And with the gaining knowledge through education, they said that 93% of survivors are learning more and coping better due to this. On sexual assault, it says that 54% of children served were under the age of 12, and 17% of those were 10 to 12-year-olds, 17% were 6 to 9-year-olds. So you're talking 6 to 12-year-olds are what, 54% in just those two, that one age group. And let's see. I'm just kind of showing you how it's kind of widespread or whatever. And then on the sexual violence in our area, which is southeast region, they had 152 requests for services that were not met. They had 2,981 bed nights, which are with the shelter, that they serviced. Let's see. And they had 786 people in Missouri receive services for sexual violence. Okay. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about domestic violence, because a lot of people think domestic violence is only bruises, or, you know, somebody's almost killed, or you know, Gabby was just recently killed with a domestic violence situation. It doesn't have to be that bad to still be domestic violence. And the key thing is to catch it when it's early, when you start to see some behaviors that aren't good. If you could red flag those in your life and say, you know, I don't want to be with that person because this is what they did, you know, or it doesn't sit right with you, the earlier you can identify it and disassociate from it, the better you are. Let's see, so under this we've got, for a healthy relationship, you have communication, respect, trust, honest, you're equal, you enjoy personal time with each other, things like that. And then the unhealthy relationship, you might not be communicating like you should, they're disrespectful to you at times, you're not trusting them, they're dishonest, you know, it's just kind of like not good, but it isn't terrible. That's a good time to identify what's going on. And then the abusive turns out with communicating in a hurtful or threatening way, if they mistreat you, accusing the other of cheating when it's not true, or denying their actions are abusive, or if they're controlling, all of those are more abusive, and that's when it's starting to take over your life a little bit more. And what's important is it's not your fault, which is, we're going to talk about gaslighting real quick in a little bit. But gaslighting is, there's actually a couple movies. Have you guys seen it? No. We'll get into it in a minute. But anyway, people think it's their fault because the abuser will tell them it's their fault, and they're so confused they think it must be my fault. Okay, so this is what is abuse. Abuse looks like controlling how we dress or look. Like if your partner doesn't want you to wear something, or he wants you to wear something that you don't want to wear. Isolating you from people, like if they don't want you to be with your family, or they won't let you go with your girlfriends, or you know, you can't go to the library. If they're physically hurting or threatening to physically hurt you, withholding things like money, food, shelter, clothing, all that is like control, and that's what they want over you, is control. And so when they're not giving you something, like if you wanted a sandwich and they told you you can't have a sandwich, some people are just like, whatever, but that is a sign, you know, if they do that kind of thing repeatedly, that's a sign that they're wanting control over you. You shouldn't have to ask if you want a bologna sandwich, and if they're making you ask and things like that. This is what we see with domestic violence victims. You look confused.
No.
But yeah, this is what we see. Okay, and then, let's see.
Kathy, is it so that a lot of people don't even realize that this is happening to them?
Right, right. I had talked to a girl today, actually, and she's gonna start, we have meetings, but we don't advertise them or anything. I mean, they can know we're having meetings, but we don't say where they're at and stuff. But she talked to me and she's like, well, he never hit me. And I'm like, he doesn't have to hit you for it to be abuse. And, you know, and I told her how emotional abuse, you know, words can hurt as much as a bat hitting you. And it hurts your soul, and it takes a piece of you out, and you have to rebuild that. You know, you have to recover from that. And when I told her that, she started crying on the phone. And so I knew that that was, I mean, she probably didn't know if she was being abused because she didn't have bruises. That's what she said. I don't have any bruises.
She just wasn't happy.
And it's different than not being happy. When it's not being happy is like everybody can be not happy.
Right.
But when you're being abused, you're being controlled, and you can't be who you're supposed to be, and they push you down. You know, like if you wanna crochet, or if you wanna wear your swimsuit to the pool or something, and they won't let you do that. It's this control, and it prevents you from being who you are, and it wounds your spirit. So that's what the abuse is about. You know,
But it still makes you terribly sad,
oh
probably.
gosh, yes, it makes you very, very sad. But it's not sadness, I think was what I was saying.
It
What I was
leads
trying to
into
say is,
physical, too.
yeah, oh yeah, it definitely it will get
I
physical.
know that.
If it doesn't start there. Okay, so then the next thing says you're not crazy. Oh, this is fun. This is a fun explanation. Okay, this is by Shannon Thomas of Southlake Counseling. And you hear things like he's a narcissist, or she's a sociopath, or a psychopath, or whatever, and people don't know the differences. So this is kind of a funny way to think of the differences. A narcissist will run you over and scold you for being in his way. They will endlessly complain about how you intentionally damaged their car when they ran over you. Okay, so a sociopath, he'll run over you, scold you for being in their way, and have a smirk on his face because secretly they get entertainment from watching the chaos that they leave behind. So a sociopath kind of gets a little enjoyment, a jolly out of it. Okay, and then a psychopath, he will go to great lengths to calculate the steps to ensure that they will run you over. Laugh while they're doing it, back up, make sure they do it again, and then do it again to make sure they can cause the most damage. So that's a psychopath. So it's kind of a twisty,
Yeah.
humory way to
Yeah.
understand the differences.
Yeah.
But you hear the different terms. And the narcissist is what in the people that I've worked with, I've encountered more, we talk more about the narcissistic personality than the other two. I mean, if you get down to it, it's not always the lower two, it's usually the narcissist. So when we talk about a healthy relationship, there's bonding, there's trauma bonding, and authentic bonding. Authentic is when it's real. And trauma is if there's like something tragic that happens between you. Like this says, they fix, save, and validate my existence. So if somebody's fixing you or saving you, that's, you know, you don't want to do that to them, and they don't want to do that to you. What you want to do is learn and see how to hold space all the time where you can just be equal. With a trauma bonding, like if something tragic happens, I keep thinking like if the flood or something like that upsets you a lot, you get like a bond with somebody. That's one type of a bond that you make, but it's like when something's tragic, it makes you kind of sticky or kind of glue, where you stick more to people that you, like when you have a baby, you associate more with your nurse because it was kind of traumatic to have the baby.
Yeah.
So that's why the trauma bonding has such a power, you know, because you've got that edgy stuff that sticks you together more, even though it's not good with relationships like this. It says, my relationship mirrors the pattern of my childhood experience, which is a trauma. And the authentic is, my relationship is based on freedom, accountability, and mental peace. And then with trauma bonding, it says, I betray myself and all of my needs to receive love. And the authentic is, I do the work to meet my needs first. So you're taking care of yourself. And if somebody loves you, they want you to take care of yourself. And you want them to take care of themselves. Okay, and then, of course, the you complete me.
The what?
The you complete me from, what was that movie? Show Me the Money. Anyway, anyway, you should complete yourself, and then a person in your life will complement that. Yeah, Jerry Maguire.
Jerry McGuire.
Yeah. And then you enhance who I am. That's what you want in a relationship, is to enhance. So when you find yourself, when you're questioning if you're in an abusive relationship, this cycle often plays out, and it starts with you get a lot of love. They call it love bombing. They send you flowers and they tell you you're wonderful and everything's great, and you go out and do stuff and everything's wonderful. And then they start to be a little overprotective, like they wouldn't let you go to the show by yourself when last week you could, but now you can't. And then they gain power by isolating you, so they won't let you do things, and they, I guess I'd say, enjoy. They like that you can't do anything because they're not letting you. And if you do this or that, then I'll let you do that. And it's a power thing. They restrict the control of resources and activities. That's what I just said. And then punishment through anger or physical harm, which is abuse, happens next. And then it's like a quietness after you've been abused or whatever has happened. Then it's like quiet in the relationship. And then the love bombing starts again. And then the circle goes all over again. And it sounds funny, but if you're in a situation like this, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because this is what just keeps happening and keeps happening. And then if you're not used to abuse, then you're like, what is she talking about? But this is so true. And with the girls that I've seen and worked with and stuff, they have a really hard time stepping out of that circle, because it just keeps going, because then he's better. You know, yeah, it went bad, but then it's better. And it can't stop, it seems like.
And if the abuser feels threatened, he's gonna go right back to the first part.
Yeah, well, it's like a, I don't know what to describe it to. It's just a system, you know, like, I don't know, like when you get sick, you get really sick and then you feel better, and then it might be 6 months, but then you get sick and then you kind of feel bad and you get better. That's what this is. And it might take 6 months or a year to go through a whole cycle, or it might take a week. It just depends what's going on. So, the narcissistic abuse, I was saying earlier about the narcissist. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that personality trait term or anything. They make, let's see, they make you feel like you are unlovable, like you are not worthy of their time and attention, like you are something inadequately wrong with you, like you are not attractive enough, like you are going crazy, or you're completely lost and unsure of anything. So they kind of make you confused, and I'll tell you how they make you confused. And this is, they've got a gaslighting movie, and the man moves things around the house and takes things away, and she thinks she's going crazy because nothing's the way it was before, and she like is going nuts until somebody from the outside helps her. But with the gaslighting, I'm going to read this bottom part because it kind of says it the best. It says, when you're being gaslighted, what you saw, you didn't see, and what you said, you didn't say. What you heard, you did not hear. What you didn't see, you saw, and what you didn't say, you did say. Do you see how this is confusing?
Yeah.
But when they talk to you like this pile of papers, you could say, there is no pile of papers there. And I'll be like, yeah, there's a pile of papers right here. And you'll say, no, there's not. What's wrong with you? There's no pile of papers. And it's something as easy as this, but when you've been done this way for, you know, day after day, year after year, it gets to where, well,
You can't
maybe
trust
this
your own mind.
isn't a pile of papers.
Yeah.
Because he's, or they're saying you're not seeing it. So that's why the gaslighting is so powerful.
And that's men as well, I mean,
Men
women as
and
well.
women, yeah. It's 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men will be abused in their life, yeah. So, and then this is, the gaslighting is, the narcissist and the gaslighting are the two that you see really a lot. And so these are common gaslighting phrases that you might hear from a narcissist. You need help. This is all you. I didn't do anything wrong. You are too sensitive. You're imagining things. You have a vivid imagination. You're not remembering these things correctly. You're just so insecure. And so when you hear that time after time after time, you start to feel, you know, maybe he is right. And then you are insecure because you think you are insecure, so that makes you insecure. You know, and it just really, it's a mind game. And abuse, people think, is just like a bruise or you know, being hit or something like that. It is mental. A lot of it is mental. And
Sad.
see, we're getting done pretty fast. This is what, do you guys have these?
I think we passed them all on.
Oh, you passed them all on? I was gonna say, if you guys wanna, take them out of there, we can, it'd be easier on me if y'all just take a color. Just give me those two. Okay, so I'll read the green, the thriving, and who wants to read yellow? Just to change things up a bit.
Okay.
I'll read it.
Yep, he's gonna read yellow, and then who wants to read the orangish? You wanna do that?
There you go. Go ahead.
Okay. And then, do you wanna read the?
I'll read the,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so number one, when you're thriving, you can say calm and steady and minor mood fluctuations, and you're able to take things in stride. When you're suffering,
Suffering is nervousness, sadness, increased mood fluctuations.
When you're struggling, persistent fear, panic, anxiety, anger, persuasive sadness, and hopelessness.
and exhaustion,
And
yeah.
in crisis, disabling distress and loss of function, panic attacks, nightmares, or flashbacks.
When you're thriving, you can have consistent performance. You can do things reliably.
When you're surviving, it's inconsistent performance, more easily overwhelmed or irritated.
When you're struggling, poor performance and difficulty making decisions or concentrating, avoiding interruption with coworkers, family, and friends.
In crisis, unable to fail or stay asleep, fall or stay asleep, intrusive thoughts.
And when you're thriving, you're able to take feedback and to adjust changes in your plans. If something doesn't quite work right, you can kind of bounce with it, you know? Okay.
And surviving, it's increased need for control and difficulty adjusting to changes.
And number 3, avoiding interaction, this is struggling, avoiding interaction with coworkers, family, and friends. I read the wrong thing a while ago.
That's okay.
In crisis, thoughts of self-harm or suicide, easily engaged or aggressive.
And with thriving on number 4, you're able to focus, you're able to communicate effectively.
And surviving, trouble sleeping or eating, activities and relationships you used to enjoy seem less interesting or even stressful.
When you're struggling, you have fatigue, aches and pains, restlessness, disturbed sleep.
In crisis, careless mistakes or an inability to focus, feeling numb, lost, or out of control, withdrawal from relationships.
And finally, when you're thriving, you have normal sleep patterns and a good appetite.
And in surviving, you have muscle tension, low energy, headaches.
When you're struggling, self-meditating with substances, food, or other numbing activities.
And in crisis, dependence on substances, food, and other numbing activities to cope.
Thank you all. Thank you. Did that make it a little interesting?
Yeah. That's so sad. Oh my
Yeah, but
goodness.
it's like a progression, which is what I was kind of wanting to say tonight, is it can start out easy or early, and then if you can catch it early, then it doesn't have to get worse. But not always. Sometimes it just jumps into worse. But I'm wanting to bring attention to it because I do the domestic violence for the community service forum. So I thought I would do that. A big problem that a lot of people have is they continue to stay in these bad relationships, and people are like, why? Part of it is what I said with that girl calling me today, is she didn't even know if she was being abused or not. But this is real good. It says, let's see, I stayed for the sake of my children. Now I blame myself for the effects that it had, staying may possibly have on them. I stayed because I was isolated. I was financially dependent. I was sleep deprived. I was told and I believe I was worthless. I was worn down and constantly being on guard for the next attack. I stayed because I was more afraid to leave, which is true. I've been working with one girl, I don't know, it's probably been a couple months by now, and she's got 2 kids. And so she makes their own decisions, but I tell her the possibilities that she could have. You can call these and call them, and they might do this for you, and line things up for her. And she got away from him, she got herself an apartment, and she's working a job, and now she has to pay daycare, rent. She's been hitting food banks when she could, not working, but it's so hard. Yeah, it's so hard for these parents. And there is some help. DFS helps with childcare and I don't know, I can't think right now. But anyway, there is help out there for her, and that's part of my job. It's not my job.
Now, does
not my
options
passion.
for women help them too?
Huh?
The options for women, do they help them too, or only the pregnancy? Or do you know?
I don't think they would be mean and not help them. They'd probably steer them to me. But options for women is more for like the pregnancy and the first,
Year or two.
4 years. Yeah. I think they go to size 4T with their clothes.
Is that how far it goes?
I could be wrong, but I'm
Well, I know
guessing.
it's pre-pregnant. I mean,
Yeah, right.
Right after you get pregnant.
Yeah,
on,
from pregnancy, from your
Because I know they
pregnancy.
have clothing and diapers
Yeah.
and food and all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff there. Very good organization.
Yeah, domestic violence around here, we've got, there's a shelter in Perryville that can help, and then there's one in Bon Terre, and then Comtree and Festus does it. So those are for shelters, and a lot of people are afraid to go to shelters. You have to give up a lot when you go to shelters, and it's communal living, which means your kids and their kids and your food and your bathroom and everything's everybody else's. So a lot of people don't like that. You know, it's hard to do that, but then you'll do what you have to do for your family. But it's hard to get a lot of help and a lot of funding. I've done a lot with the Safe House down in Cape, and they just had their fundraiser, which was Vintage Now. It was so much fun Saturday. We dressed up, it was the millennium, so every 10 years they did dress up, and they have a fashion show, but it's what the theme is what they model. Anyway, so they raised $115,000 Saturday. They always have been raised $115,000.
That's great.
Yeah, and they do great, but they basically keep that down in Cape, which is good, you know. And the way these shelters work, if they're through the Missouri Coalition Against Domestic Violence, Sexual Assault, is they all work and they network together. And I've seen where, like, I've even seen California people come through Missouri and then go somewhere else because their abusers after them.
After them.
Yeah, so they network, but they kind of keep to themselves, like they want to keep you locally, but if you need to go somewhere else, they'll move you somewhere else. That's not a question.
A couple years ago, we had a little girl, when we had the plein air, their family was on the run.
Yeah.
And she won, so we could not even publish her
Yeah,
real
right.
name. Yeah.
Right, and they like witness protection, they change their names and all that. And
It's so
I don't know
sad.
why I'm saying this, but just for a side thing, they have Safe at Home. And if you know anybody that you don't want them to know where you're at, you can use Safe at Home. They will send your mail and everything to Jeff City. Jeff City will process it and send it to wherever you're actually at. So that's called Safe at Home, and that's available to anybody, you know, that needs to, I'm sure not everybody, but if you're in a situation where you need it, they want you to use it.
So
It's free.
why do they think people are like that to begin with? Is it
The narcissist?
the mental problems, or just how they're raised, or situations
Well,
that's
it's one of
happened
those,
to them?
it's kind of like an abandonment thing where they don't connect. They don't have, from what my experience has been, and what I've been taught, is that they don't connect when they're younger, and they don't develop that empathy and things like that you have in a normal back and forth relationship. They don't understand how other people feel. They don't have empathy as much. But yeah, they're narcissists are, there's a lot of jokes on TV. If you ever get on Facebook, you can look up narcissist and you'll get all kinds of memes. But I don't know if they know they're being mean or not, but they just don't care. That's just the way it is. And like when they take away stuff, you know, or don't let you do things, stuff like that. It's just, that's the way it is with them. And you can tell them, you can try to rationalize with them and stuff, and you can't get anywhere.
They don't
Yeah,
understand.
they don't fluctuate their thought process at all. So when you're a narcissist, you usually don't change, which is one thing that a lot of the girls are like, well, maybe if I can get him into counseling, but I mean, you can get him into counseling, but I don't think the success rate is very high with a narcissist.
Because it's too ingrained in them already?
No, they have to admit that they had done something, and they have to feel, and they don't feel really.
They don't have the feeling.
Yeah, they don't have that empathy that.
Isn't that a shame? But
Yeah. But the narcissist is what you see what I see a lot, almost everybody that says what's going on, it's almost always a narcissist, but there is the sociopath and the psychopath too. So, anyway, wasn't that cheerful? You guys did all this nice talking, and then I bring us
Your
all down.
programs are always so informative, where you're probably helping a lot of people.
Yeah, you don't realize what you know until you're around somebody that says, what, really? I can do that? You know, and a lot of them are afraid to call the hotlines and stuff. A lot of them are afraid to call them, and you know, if you call this is what they're going to say, this is what they want you to tell them, you know, like where you're living or whatever, and this is what they can offer you. And when they know that before they call a hotline, because a hotline's a hotline, you know, they don't want to do that, but when they do that, they can have these things offered to them. But it's almost like a hand-holding thing where you can, a lot of it's education that I can do, like I went through this pretty fast, but when you do education and they understand what's going on, then they can make a change in their life, because where they're at, it's really hard for them to change because they can't see anything.
And that's why coming on a program like this is beneficial for you and for others, because they're not in a group where there's a whole bunch of them around. Oh my God, somebody's going to go tell somebody I was here.
Yeah,
Now
and
it's
just to say that
plain wide open.
Yeah, the group that I do have, you know, I've had it for a couple of years now, I usually only have one person at a time, which I think is perfect, you know, because we're in St. John, they don't want everybody to know what everybody's doing.
Exactly.
But, I mean, you get more attention one-on-one, and it seems like they respond really well. Yeah. Yeah, I've had one in particular that just, you know, was so excited. She went to the commissioners and talked to them about how, and I just do what the Safe House for Women in Cape do, because I was familiar with that, so I just brought it up here.
Right.
So, and it empowers them. When you let them fly, they will fly. But when they're held down, they won't.
So the men and the women are equally open to
Open to what?
open to you helping them.
I haven't had any guys. I know down in Cape, I don't know. The new shelter they have, I think they've got 2 wings for just single women, women with children, and then they've got a wing off to the side for LGBTQ and males. So from what I've heard is that one wing is not very busy often, so they don't have, because I'm like, what do you have both of them at the same time?
Right.
And so far they haven't had that, or I'm not sure. I haven't been there to see how it lays out, because they keep it back. You have to go to the police, and the police will give you a ride to the shelter. They don't let people just go to the shelter.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, but there are some guys that are involved, but men can be abused, and it's not that they're wimps or something, because they don't want to hurt another person. Just like we wouldn't want to hurt another person, and they don't want to hurt another person. So it's not that they're wimps, it's just they're not going to hit a woman or hit their partner or whatever. It has nothing to do with strength or anything like that. It has to do with mentality and soul and personality and emotions, the person you choose to be. So if a man is abused, if you ever know a man that's abused, he is not a wimp. He's probably got more strength than any of them. So, anyway, I'm full of information, aren't I?
You are, and you always are, and that's great that you come here and do it, because I think it benefits more people
Well, it's
in the long run. So
Domestic Violence Month, so that's why I said I'd call
Exactly.
and get in there. So,
yeah, and anytime any of your programs you have, you're more than welcome to come on, and I'll be sure to call you when we don't have anybody.
sure. I keep my stuff. I'll keep this and
Yeah.
add more to it
Yeah.
or whatever. But yeah, I do things like I do a topic is what I call it, and I do a teaching whenever I have somebody in group. But like I said, if anybody's interested in coming to group, it's really not a group. It's really one-on-one. And even the group is just one night a week. I help more through the week with the girls that I've helped so far, and I've only helped girls so far, but I help them through the week too. They call me and text me and all that. So
And that's a wonderful service that you're in.
yeah, it's support. It's a passion.
So how do they get a hold of you?
Very satisfying, probably.
I have business cards that I'm not going to show on TV, but yeah, I've got business cards, and we've got them like the doctor's offices and all county health and all different places, and like beauty shops. And then they can just give them a business card, and they can stick that in their purse and get a hold of me. And we have an email. And the email is yeah, synergystgen@gmail.com. So that's if they want to email me. But they can also text or email anonymously, because I don't care who they are. If they want to just contact me, I can just give them some information. They don't have to say their name. I don't care who they are. I'll help anybody. So, but yeah, I've got cards back here I was going to give you and see if you guys wanted any. But we hand them out so that people have them available if they want to. Because you never know when somebody's going to pass you and you just think, something's going on with her, you know. And she probably knows it, but she doesn't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
So. Okay.
Well,
You guys really had interesting stuff, though.
Yeah.
I
Well, we
really
want to
wanna
thank
come.
everybody for
Yeah.
coming on. We're a little over time, but he hasn't shut us
Thank
off
you.
yet.
Yeah.
So we appreciate it, and anytime anyone has anything you want to talk about, just give Mary Ann or Martha or I a call, or even you can call the City Hall and they can get a hold of us. And you can talk about anything you want. If you start a new business, come on here. We'll let you advertise
Okay.
and draw your people. And if you got a program coming up, give us a buzz. We're always open. So, and if anybody out in the audience wants to be on, give us a call too.
Yeah.
So I guess we better go since we're 5 minutes over.
Whoops.
We'll say good night to everyone.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Thank you all for watching.
And thanks a lot for everybody's
Thanks for
time.
having us.
Thank you